subscribe.
Everybody thinks that religion puts the woman as a second-class citizen, but it's not true.
They're actually higher and more holy than the man.
The man is a vessel that the light goes through in order to give it to the woman. The woman is much more spiritually aware. In order for you to achieve a complete circle between you and your creator, you must have a woman. You've got to have a minimum of 10 men or more in order to carry the prayer, because the 10 of them can bring it up to a level that a woman can do by itself. They're the ones behind the scenes, running the show.
Even the ability to connect to the light, the woman's ability exceed those of the man.
We might not like what we hear, but that's the facts.
The interview you're about to hear with Ray is all about the power of the woman. In Hebrew, they call it koach haisha. The power of the woman represents the fact that women are extremely powerful and have been oppressed for a very long time. They've been oppressed in order to keep this world asleep, because the spiritual role of the woman is one that has the ability to awaken humanity and free us once and for all. To all the men watching this interview, this is not about bringing men down and raising women up. It's about honoring the woman and her power, because it's something that most people have forgotten in the modern world that we live in today, in the society that we live in today. And for all the women watching this interview, may this interview and conversation awaken the power within you to truly make this world a better place through the energy, through the power that has been embedded within each and every one of you. Remember, everything you're about to hear throughout this interview is from Ray. My job is just to be the messenger. There are some things you may agree with. There are some things you may disagree with, just like in all other interviews with him. I encourage you to listen to this interview multiple times to truly understand the essence of what is being shared. Because this is such a sensitive topic, because women have been oppressed for so long, for millennia all around the world, it's important that we don't hear these messages through trauma and misinterpret them, but understand that they are truly empowering messages intended to bring the woman back into her power. What's most important to me that you all take from this conversation and interview is the fact that we are all important. We are all powerful, but the women in our world have a very special role to play, a role that can change this world forever in the most positive way. Thank you all very much and enjoy. It's been quite some time since we sat down in this forum. We've had our own conversations, but we haven't sat down to record a conversation in quite some time. I know you've been busy. A lot of people have a lot of questions. There's a lot going on all around the world today, and we want answers. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for your time today, and thank you for making this happen again.
You're most welcome.
With that being said, there are a lot of topics to discuss. I do want to focus on a lot of the questions that people were sending in. And believe it or not, it's not all about what's going on in modern day. It really has a lot to do with what can we do to be better? What can we do to learn more about the spiritual realms? How do we understand different dimensions? What does that really mean? How do we apply it, not just in philosophy, but in real life? So I went through the book Rays of Light. You still have not given me the entire thing, but I do have the table of contents in addition to about 250 pages that you did give me that I read. Everybody read that because we put it out to the world, thanks to your approval and your permission of doing so. In the table of contents, there are a lot of topics that are very interesting. One called The Power of the Woman. Another one speaking about what they call the land of darkness. Many, many topics that I want to discuss, but before getting into those realms of conversation, I have a few questions regarding what's going on right now and a few things that you can share with us. So I want to start by asking you, over the past few months, 6 months, 12 months, however, whatever time period you want to share, what have you been doing in regards to the TLS organization? What can you share in terms of how it's been going?
You're going to need to be more specific here. This is a very general question. The organization is doing their thing as always. I'm doing certain missions. I'm not taking every mission. Some missions I don't take for personal reasons. But your question is too general, so I can't give you. You're asking for details, which I don't know what to give you.
Okay, so let's start with this. There are a few topics that I know we've spoken about, and I spoke about out in the public as well, because TLS gave me information to do that. Before we go to things like the avian flu, let's start with something you shared about a year ago. About a year ago, we sat down and you shared this operation, without giving too much detail, that you were undertaking yourself with the blessing of TLS, all about, from what I understood, moving money from who you call the evildoers into the pockets of the needy. Can you tell us more about that and what that's all about?
Yes, unfortunately. I had big dreams and big visions regarding this particular mission. However, I have to say that, unfortunately, I totally failed, and right now it's dead in the water, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future with that. But what I tried, I did not succeed. It did not work, and my plan, basically, does not exist anymore.
Is it something you're no longer doing?
Yes, I stopped working on it. I'm working on other missions, but this particular one that I really wanted to be my biggest and most important work did not go well.
First of all, I'm sorry to hear that, but if it's not something that's active, that means you can give more information.
The idea was to create grants, public grants, in huge amounts of money in order to help the needy in every subject. It could be medical, food, clothing, could be anything. The source of the money was supposed to come from what we call the evildoers, trying to get money from their money that does not belong to them. They earned it in very malicious ways, but it did not work.
Is this something that you were going to go and take away from them, or is this something that you were going to go and make them give grants from their own pocket?
Both.
How would you go about doing that?
I know them.
Is this where transducing comes in?
Yes. It's a big operation. It's not a 1-month operation. I've been working on it for a very long time. I almost succeeded, but then it failed.
What caused it to fail?
I can't tell you.
Can you tell us what families are involved?
All the families we talk about all the time. Let's not mention names, but your viewers know what we're talking about.
You've been doing this now for 14 years, almost 15 years. Do you plan on retiring anytime soon?
I'm thinking about it, yes.
Do you really think you can?
I don't know. I'm going to have to try, I guess. That's why I'm slowing things down now, to see what would happen. But I'm tired. I'm physically, mentally, and emotionally tired. I've done too much. I've seen too much. I've got hurt many times on jobs, and my body's taking the toll also, and there's only so much you could do. We gotta give the opportunity to the new generation.
I've been doing this, not with what you're doing, but I'm doing what I'm doing over the past few years, and I'm also tired. So I can't imagine what you're going through, and it's a long time, especially with the amount of work and the type of work that you're doing. So whatever you decide over there, I personally don't think you'll actually be able to, just because you said it to me also. You're like, once you're in, you could leave if you want, but you won't want to, because you stop all of that and you miss it. It's something amazing.
Yeah, but I got to a point. Look, you're 27 soon. Age takes a toll on your body, especially when you physically get hurt, and not to mention all the stress and everything else. So, if you're lucky enough, you get killed on the job. If not, you retire, and then you deal with the emotional regret and the spiritual regret. You gotta do the right thing. I'm sure it's gonna go to my mind. But there's a point where you have to go and say, enough is enough, and move on. And like you said, you're tired.
I just want to ask you again, we're going to go into all those topics, but I want to ask you a personal question here, if it's appropriate. I've been doing this for 4 years, 5 years. It started when I was 20, 27 years in terms of when it actually began. 2 years later, really. And, when I was around 22, it started, and then it kept going. So my question for you is, today, I'm still not formally initiated into the organization or anything, although I'm doing a lot of work on their behalf. What's the plan here? What do they want from me?
Well, I'm not initiated either. My choice. My choice. But I'm not initiated either. What's the plan for you? I think you will continue to represent the organization. I believe you will be initiated one day, provided you're not going to refuse like I did. You're talking like this now, but give it time, you might change your mind. So what is the plan? I don't know what is the exact plan for you. I'm assuming, look, you're doing good work. They're happy with what you're doing. Obviously, you're still here, at a very young age. When I was approached, I was much, much older than you when I got into this. But according to the way you're going to run things and handle yourself, I think they'll give you more and more opportunities to do other things as well. What it is, I have no clue.
I'm only asking that because I personally feel like things are, you may disagree, but I think that things are moving slower than I would have thought. And I don't get it.
Slow is the name of the game. Get used to it. I was very, very pissed off in the beginning about how slow things are moving. You just get used to it over time. For them, if you're doing it for 4 years, it's meaningless. It's not even considered as a long time. It's a short time even.
And then how come when you started, it happened so quickly?
First of all, with me, it also went slowly, but in order to achieve certain abilities to do certain missions, they had to give me a crash course in certain things.
And why did they need you as opposed to using their other thousands of people that are very fully capable and initiated?
They're not using only me, they're using other people. I told you, they choose you according to your character, energy, frequency, and everything else that we discussed. It's not that they just decided one day. I was followed or under surveillance, you could say, for a very, very, very long time before they approached me. Same thing for you. I know it now because I saw your file. So, it's not that they showed up suddenly one day. Oh, we'll take this guy into it. It's something that they monitor for a long time. And then they make a decision. And a lot of times they make a decision and take somebody in. And a year later, and I've seen it happen, they had to remove them. I was not initiated, but certain things were given to me, were later on taken away from me. For various reasons. Mostly because I've done things I was not supposed to do. And I was supposed to be kicked out. But for some reason they didn't. They just gave me another chance to do things. But certain abilities were taken away.
If and when there comes a point of initiation, what do you believe I should do? What would you do in my position knowing what you know?
I'll tell you the same answer that I gave you a few years ago when we met. When this whole thing started, I would advise you not to go into it because you're a very young man. You're not married. You don't have a family yet. This thing is going to take a hold over your life. Not necessarily in a negative way. I'm not trying to put it as negative. But it will change your regular life. After experiencing what I experienced for the last 15 years. Being a married and a family man, although I'm not initiated, it still took a toll on me and the family. So, there will be a lot of positives, but there will be some negatives. I guess it's more of a personal choice. My personal choice. I will not get initiated. Because it will take you to different fields and planes that you might not be happy to do. Not always switching into a different dimension that eventually you will learn how to do will make you happy. It might put a lot of stress on you when you come back to your regular life. Being a single guy is much easier to be in the organization. That's why most of the members are single people, men and women. It will make your life easier if you're going to stay single. Knowing you, I don't think you want to stay single. I'm sure you want to have a family one day. And my personal decision at the time was, it's not worth it because I'm going to something that it's too complicated, and I wasn't ready for it. I still don't think I'm ready for it. Today, I don't know if I would agree to be initiated. I don't think they'll even give it to me. Because certain things passed, decisions were made, other people came in. So today, I don't think I have this option even. But going back 15 years ago, when this whole thing started, I think me refusing the initiation was a smart thing on my part.
I guess time will tell, and we'll decide if and when the time comes.
Correct.
Let's dive into the topics. I have a few things in front of me, including a piece from Rays of Light. It's a piece that was unreleased. I had it translated from Hebrew into English. It's called The Power of the Woman. Now, the topic specifically that I really want to make sure that we cover here, and this is all from Rays of Light. There are certain parts that I read, and there are certain parts that I didn't read because I wasn't given it, and I wasn't able to share it with the world either. Now, I don't have the whole chapter of The Power of the Woman, or at least I don't think. I know that this is a piece of it, and it's a piece that's actually very, very interesting. I took certain portions, I highlighted certain portions because I have questions about this that I think is very unique in terms of what we can cover and what people, I think, should know when it comes to the power of the woman, especially in the times that we're living in right now. So there are going to be a few topics that I want to cover. The power of the woman, the land of darkness, something called kafakela, which we could speak about, the idea of hell, and if that's real or if it's something, fictitious and made up, certain things that you did in Bora Bora that I found very interesting just from the table of contents in Rays of Light, and what we call Project 815, which I know nothing about. Where do you want to start?
It's up to you, but I don't think you can cover all of this in one sitting. But maybe you're right. Let's try and see what happens.
Let's do our best. Let's start with The Power of the Woman.
Okay.
I read this. I think it's phenomenal. From what it seems like, it's a conversation between you and Rabbi A.A., correct?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense from the way that I received it. Basically, from my understanding, and I can read a few portions from this as well, but from my understanding, it's really reversing what many religions have portrayed the woman to be in a positive way. So there's a lot of questions over here and topics that are covered asking women are constantly, and it's true, women are constantly represented in Judaism and other religions as second-class citizens. And when the rabbi comes and tells you, no, that's not true. You're just not understanding what you're reading. As a matter of fact, they're actually higher and more holy than the man. So before I get into this, reading a few parts, I want to ask you, what did you get from that conversation? What can you share here today with your own understanding?
Well, this lecture was a long time ago. I don't remember what year. I think it was over 10 years ago. It's a very unique way of explaining the woman's position in our society. As you said, everybody thinks that any religion puts the woman as a second-class citizen. But it's not true. Absolutely not true. You're right about that. And that's what he tried to explain in the writings in front of you. I'm assuming what you have is in English. Yes?
Yeah, this was translated. But again, before I even get to this, I want your explanation from what you learned from him having that conversation.
This lecture is basically a way of explaining and trying to get the public to understand the position of the woman in her community and to make us aware, especially the men in our society, and make us aware that the woman is much more spiritually aware, has a better awareness when it comes to spiritual life.
Now, just a question before I read a few portions from here. When you say woman and man, are we talking about actual genders like a man and a woman, or are we talking about the energies of female and male?
Both. You're talking about the physical energy of men and women, and the spiritual energy. But yes, separate between a man and a woman.
So it's not a male that can have feminine energy, it's a woman.
No. Some men do have feminine energy. They do. Everybody's born differently. Most men do not. But some men are born with certain female energy. Correct.
Can you give certain examples in religion, in this case, let's go to Judaism, in religion that would make it seem like it's taking women and putting them as second-class citizens? Give me one or two examples.
I can give you two examples. One is when men go up to pray to the Torah. Men can go up. A woman is not allowed. Unless you're a Reformed Jewish person, then you can do it. But they do not consider them as the real Jews. But going to the Torah, a woman is not allowed.
Okay, can you give us another example?
The second one is, a man can have multiple wives, and a woman cannot. There are other small things that if somebody from outside would just sit and read the Torah and try to translate it to himself to make sense out of it, for him, he would see the woman as a second-class citizen.
Okay, so I want to cover certain parts here because I disagree with that perspective completely, and I think that this conversation brings light to not just the fact that there's a different power that they hold that's actually much higher, but how is that true and why is that true? So over here, and by the way, just a question, can I share this publicly?
I don't know. What I'm willing to do for you after you give me a few days and I review it myself, the original text, and I'll give you an answer then. I might be able to give you maybe other sections from other chapters.
There's no names in here.
Yeah, I just want to review before I give you the okay.
Okay, I'm going to read a few parts right now.
Okay.
So this is the rabbi speaking to you, and it actually goes back to Adam and Eve. It says Adam and Eve were created connected back to back. Whether this is a metaphor or not, I don't know. But Adam and Eve were created connected back to back like Siamese twins. And only then were they separated so that they could connect face to face and not be alone in the world. It is not good to be a person alone. This symbolic description shows that in order to realize the flow of energy, it is necessary to connect two complementary bits, since without a male and female pairing, there is no possibility of revealing the creator light in the world in a continuous and permanent way. What about homosexuality?
They can't have babies.
Yeah, but it's saying, again, it's necessary to have a male and female to connect in order, forget about the babies, in order to have a flow of energy. So what does that mean when it comes to homosexuality, spiritually speaking?
In nature, you're supposed to. Things were meant to be done in a certain way. However, in nature, being gay is 15% of the population for ages. It's not something new. Today it became something else. But up to today, let's go years back. Homosexuality always existed. Even in the animal kingdom, and about 10% to 15% always were, and probably always will be. What he is trying to tell you here is that in order to, the energy between a man and a woman is totally different between a man and a man. They cannot procreate. They can share love together. But their sexual interaction is physically not healthy. It's against what your body is supposed to do, if you think about it. The anal canal was meant for a human to defecate and cleanse the body. They're doing the opposite act. Now why is that? And why? You can say, okay, so why did God create them like that? That's a different subject for another day. But in order for you to achieve a complete circle between you and your creator, you must have a woman. That's what he's trying to tell you. It's got to be done together. Part of it is having a new creature, which is a baby. But some couples cannot have babies together, which is fine. It doesn't mean they cannot connect to their creator. Now you could do it with a partner, but this will make you complete. But you as a single man, part of you doing your prayers in the morning, putting on tefillin, it's a way of connecting to your creator. Somebody else can use meditation to meet their creator. But if you meditate with your partner at the same time, and you can reach this frequency of love at the same moment, it would be a different meditation altogether. And I promise you, if you try it one day with the right partner, you'll understand. It's a totally different meditation. And then you're going to understand what he's talking about here, about connecting the energies as being one.
Understood. Let's keep going in terms of the roles of a man and a woman. Now, he does say something over here, and he says, none of this is dealing with social issues. I'm paraphrasing right now. None of this is dealing with social issues of what's accepted and what's not accepted today. He says everything that he's explaining here, and that's what I loved about this, nothing to do with social issues, just based on spirituality and the laws of energy of how things work and how they were intended to be, so we can use that to elevate and ascend in many ways. So it says the man is supposed to provide the light, and the woman is supposed to absorb the light provided by the man and realize the potential within it.
The man doesn't provide it. The man is a vessel that the light goes through in order to give it to the woman. One of the ways men do it is through implementing the seed in the woman's body in order to procreate. And the seed, the sperm, is a way of doing it as well. It could be done with hugs. It could be about projecting love from one to another. It doesn't have to be always a sexual act. It could be holding hands. It could be laying in bed together. It could be, as I said before, forget making love. Meditate together. There's not too many couples in the world who can meditate together. But But if you get to this point one day, and you could meditate together, I promise you it would be a better orgasm. Better than anything you've ever felt.
Interesting. Again, it makes sense when explaining it in terms of roles. I want to keep going here. I'm just going to read a little bit because in case I can't get this to share, at least I could share it on video. So it says, the man is supposed to sow and the woman is supposed to bring life into the world. Again, this is a translation. It may not be perfect. This is the reason for the structure of our reproductive organs. This is the reason why the pregnancy that realizes the life potential in the sperm cell and the egg takes place in the woman's body and not in the man's body. This is also the reason why a man is allowed to have a polygamous relationship, that is, to be with other women besides his first wife, while a woman is obligated to monogamy, that is, she cannot connect with more than one man. And then it continues by saying, for many, this is considered chauvinism at its peak. And it really does sound like that because you're saying you can do it, but I can't. The explanation is what I liked over here, and that's what I want to speak to you about. So it says, what is the logic behind this anyways? The relationship between a man and a woman nourishes and animates both partners. Stopping the flow of energy between them hurts and weakens them both. To understand why a woman has no place for the energies of more than one man, I will explain to you a metaphor of the rain and the earth. The man predominated for rain is endowed with the energy of giving and sharing, and being like a kind of pipe, it can water several soils at the same time, spreading its seed without any woman's roots getting stuck in it, which makes sense because it's rain. Today, the situation is different from biblical times. In Western society, the problem in such cases stems from betrayal and breach of trust, causing grief, public shaming, and humiliation. But in this case, the Torah does not deal with the moral and social aspect of this issue, since it teaches spiritual rules and does not try to dictate behavioral norms to anyone. It does not find fault with a man's attachment to several women, and this is because that does not cause spiritual damage. The situation is different with the land-governed woman. Just as you cannot plant a tree in a plot of land where another tree has taken root, so the moment the woman serves as a receptacle for the man's seed, the receptacle for the light and energy of love, his energy is rooted in her, and there is no place for another man's energies. A man's wife who maintains relationships with another man brings in additional energies without removing the previous energy, something that can block the flow of energy in her body and bring forth mental, spiritual, and physical illnesses on her. And I emphasize a man's wife. So let's talk about that for a second. What happens if you're a woman that's not married sleeping with multiple men?
Well, it's an issue in every religion. It's even an issue for a single man to do it. This is why, if you pay attention to religious communities, they get married very early. They're not waiting until 30, 40, 45 years old.
So forget male or female. You're saying in general, there is a spiritual purpose behind the whole no sex before marriage?
Marriage is a sacred process. It has a lot of the spiritual value into it. For you to have a relationship with a woman, you're going to ask any religious leader, and they will tell you that you need to be married first. The reason is, if you do it just for your desires, your sexual desires, it's hurting you somewhat as a spiritual being by making it a holy process. And you come together as one. And that's where procreation comes in. At the end of the line, it's procreation. Did I live my life as a young man like that? No, I did not. You're not doing it either. But that's, if you want to go to the basics, this is it. Now, we might not like what we hear, but that's the facts.
Well, I actually don't see a problem with this because, again, it's not about social issues or social aspects. It's saying this is the man, this is the woman, not about better or worse. We'll speak about in short because I want to read more excerpts from this, sharing what the woman actually holds and why she's higher in that regard when it comes to, spiritual orientation and whatnot. But all it's saying is the man is the pipe, the rain. The woman is the land. And if you think about that metaphor, I think it's a genius metaphor because it makes sense. You can rain on multiple soils. Multiple soils cannot have too many seeds. By the way, if you go according to the Torah, you're not allowed to have two seeds in the same field. Forget about sex and men and women. There's a reflection there as well. You're not allowed to have two seeds in the same field. And I wonder if there's a connection there. It sounds like there is.
That's what they do with genetically modified food. Absolutely. It's cancer causing. Same thing here. You're damaging your body. You're damaging your soul somehow by not going that route. Is it easy to do? Today especially, it's almost impossible with the way society lives, unless you're coming from a very religious background. And also, don't forget a very important aspect. The woman always knows who's the mother. If you have more than one partner, you could never know who the father is, unless today you're doing a DNA test. 3,000 years ago, it wasn't there. So first of all, you want to make sure you know who the father is. So the father can never be 100% sure that he's the father, but she can be 100% sure that she's the mother, because she's delivering the baby.
When it comes to marriage, I have a problem with that whole thing nowadays, because today you go to City Hall, you get some stupid document, you give them a few bucks, and you're married. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't understand what that whole thing is, where the government needs to give you a license and now you're married.
That's the law.
Okay, fine. But when it comes to the spiritual side of it, let's say in this case with a woman and multiple partners, a woman finds a man. Man finds a woman. They get married. They love each other. It doesn't work out 10 years later. You get divorced. How do you remove that energy of that man's seed to not induce spiritual damage down the line when you go and find another partner?
Subscribe.